Andre Elliott, Senior Executive Director of the Eastern Shore YMCA's. Ladies and gentlemen, the man, the myth, Andre Elliott, my brother.
Probably more myth than anything else, but yeah.
How you doing, my friend?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Good. So you met Charlie, you met Lucas.
Yes,
so
I did.
Welcome.
Good to see you guys.
Yeah, it's good to see you
Thanks
too.
for being on the podcast.
You may be regretting it later, but we'll
Really?
see.
Really? Well, we our aim is to, bring community types of people here to share their experiences about the Eastern Shore, right? And you guys supposedly went to school together, or what happened with that?
So 40 years ago, it's hard to believe it's been that long, but 40 years ago, I told you I'm gonna get emotional.
I'm gonna bring you back.
My family and I moved from Chincoteague and showed up in Cape Charles, and I remember like the very first day walking into school, like he was the first one I saw, because he was like, hey, check this out. This dude's here. I mean, it's Andre. Andre's like, this guy's here. And he came up to me and started talking to me and was like, this guy's the coolest ever. And we've been best friends ever since.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep. I even stuck by his side in first grade when he blew out the teacher's birthday candle.
What?
It became the pariah of the class for about 10 minutes. I was still his friend.
Man. That was me. I was that guy.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, dude. Oh, man. It's been, I was thinking about that today. It's been 40 years. And I was like, I cannot believe that. That shows you how old we are, my friend.
Bro, your math is a little off. I think it's probably a little longer than that, maybe 41 or 42.
Yeah, I mean, okay, yeah.
Thinking about how old we were then. I mean, I don't want to really give up the goods on how old we really are now, but yeah.
And this was which school? Because
Cape Charles Elementary School.
Okay.
So the school building for the first and second grade were actually behind where the Catholic Church is now.
Yep.
So originally that was like a female boarding school back when it was originally built with the church eons ago.
Mm-hmm.
But by the time we went through, it was actually first and second grade of Cape Charles school system was there. Kindergarten. Yes.
Too,
yes.
Yeah.
And then down the street to the high school is where third on up was. And we eventually made it there. We like closed the school down, right?
Yeah, I think we were the last sort of class to matriculate into that building before they consolidated with the county. So when we were third grade, that was the last year that it was actually the town of Cape Charles, a school district, right?
Right. Yeah. That's right.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a lot of pride, man.
Yeah, that's
Indians.
awesome.
We were Indians.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember that building well. I remember kindergarten was on the ground floor, and then we had first and second grade upstairs. And here was the crazy part. When the weather was nice, we had to walk to the high school, which was 2 blocks away, to go to the cafeteria for lunch. You remember that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like I couldn't imagine now, like kids walking down the street in line to basically take a field trip to go to lunch every day.
That's cool.
Every day,
I love
dude.
that. I
Every
love
day.
that. Were the lunches good? Do you remember?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was like the old school, like lunch ladies.
They made the bread. They did.
Yeah.
Everything was done right there, and it was just like, I remember that. I was young, but I remember how good the food was because they took pride in what they did. It was a town that was still like, back then Cape Charles had 3 grocery stores. They had like the Meatland, the Belo, and the B&B Market.
Yep.
Right by the school. Remember that? The market there?
We're actually right across from my
I remember
grandma's house.
Meatland. I don't know when that shut down. Maybe like late 90s.
See, Nick
Or
worked there. I wish he
mid-90s?
was here. We could ask Nick.
Yeah.
Because he worked there.
Yeah, the Meatland even had gas pumps back in the 80s when we were little. You remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember taking like the classic Coke bottles and we would go there and like exchange them and they would give us X amount towards the next 6-pack of Coke.
Yep, and Wendell Distributing used to take the cans too.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny
back
that
in the
you
day
guys
stuff.
bring that up because my dad mentions a lot how growing up in Cape Charles was different, right? People would meet on the beach, you'd drive around, you'd honk your horns, you'd meet up with people. And now it seems that, demographics are shifting maybe a little bit. It's becoming more economically viable, the town itself. And it's interesting to think about, that's part of our history, right?
Right.
Which is, there's some really cool parts, but what sorts of things did you guys enjoy doing You know, what sort of ruckus did you cause?
So
At what age? I want to make sure that, you know,
yeah,
you want
need
to
that
start young.
qualifier. But no, when we were kids, there were 2 arcades. I can't remember the one, but the one was Blazing Flippers.
Blazing Flippers, dude.
Well, we actually had an arcade in town. You didn't need to leave town to get anything.
Yeah.
Like all your clothes shopping, books, everything. It was right there in town on Mason Avenue. Like there was all kinds of shops, right? I mean,
Oh yeah, we had McCroy's and
Jones's department store.
Yeah, and
the
of
Village
course,
Mart.
Yeah, Watson's, which has been there forever. But yeah, Watson's, A&N.
Yep, the jewelry store. I can't remember the family that owned that, but that was another one.
Right, and of course, Savage's drugstore
Yeah.
on the corner. I mean, they still did the old fashioned, which they do now, but it's not the same. You
Yeah.
know, like the drugstore back then. Like, I seriously think sometimes Mr. Savage had like the red and white stripe, like, and he was, you know, he'll go over here and he'll get your drugs prepared for you. And I'm gonna go over here and make you a Coke.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And the movie theater was open and showing movies pretty regularly. I remember going to see E.T. when we were little.
Yes. I remember Adam Travis. He would throw the sprees. He would lick them and throw the red sprees and like and it would go down and drip down the screen as the movie's playing, and it looked
Nice.
like, you know, somebody has something dripping from their nose.
Oh, man.
you know?
Oh my gosh, I forgot about that. But yeah, it was it was a very fun town to grow up in, even though you can kind of tell things were starting to die, you know, with, you know, jobs leaving and people not being able to support the stores. But, you know, we did get to see sort of the end of the heyday.
Yeah.
Well, dude, it's like we really did, especially with the railroad coming in, and, you know, we got to see what the town, how it was first established. I mean, if it wasn't for the railroad, it never would have been a thought.
No, my great grandfather came. He came here with the railroad.
Yeah. See, and
Really?
so did mine.
Yep.
So did mine. It was the life-saving stations and the railroad was what brought my family down this way.
Yep.
So, I mean,
I think that's a big universal theme is the railroad here on the Eastern Shore.
yeah, but it was cool because it had still all the terminals and it had the station and it still had all that nostalgia, and so it was legit. And we even had the circus came into town a couple times too.
Yeah, I remember
and,
that too.
But yeah, in the Little League, of course, going over the hump down to the Little League
Oh,
Park.
yeah.
I mean, I played for the Yankees. Who'd you play for?
Pirates.
See, he played for the Pirates.
Oh,
Yeah.
were you guys rivals?
Oh yeah,
yeah,
dude.
yeah.
How many teams were there?
There were the Indians, the Yankees, the Orioles, and the Pirates. It was
Yeah, it
four.
was just
Oh,
4
nice.
teams.
Yeah, but we were good.
Yeah.
And it was the same teams every year. Like, you know, you get on the team and you stay with the team. And because I remember Joe Rustine and Steve McCready coached our team for
Right.
all the years we
Right.
were there. And I think Eddie Spencer was
Eddie Spencer.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So
Seeing him at Broadwater games now, it's unbelievable. Like, I remember the very first day, the very first practice, I was 9 years old. And I walked up to Eddie Spencer, Coach Spencer. It was me and my dad. And Eddie throws me a jock strap and he goes, "You're my catcher." And I was like, "But I want it." He goes, "You're my catcher."
First,
you know what I mean?
first practice?
Oh, I was. I mean, right. I mean, dude,
just sized you up.
It could not get more old school than that. Like, the dude throws me a jock strap and a cup and just goes, "Dude, go play some ball."
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Wow.
But
that sounds about right.
I'm glad you said that because I coach for sure, and it bums me out that. No, I really don't understand. Like, I could say I understand, but it bums me out because that's the part about growing up down in Cape Charles and playing baseball was that you were on the same team.
Yeah.
And like, so those 4 years, you had some good rivalries. You had like guys like Tim Brady and Jason Sparrow and you and me. And were some of the old, like the 12-year-olds when we were 9.
Wayne Bell.
Wayne Bell, David Trower.
Yep. Nathan Travis, Adam Travis, you know, all those guys that were.
Jay Bell as well. Like, he would steal like a base. As soon as he got on, he was stealing all 3 bases. Like, the dude was just running around everywhere.
Yeah, and isn't that how he got the nickname Jackrabbit?
Yeah.
'Cause he was always-
Yeah, because
That's
he was
the other
just
thing is like my dad would bring up a lot about how everybody had like an Eastern Shore nickname,
Oh yeah.
you know, and like how those came into, you know, fruition are like unique stories like that, which is cool.
Yeah, and honestly, like just us talking about baseball made me think of that nickname. I hadn't thought of him being called that in probably 30 years.
What was your nickname?
I didn't have one.
You didn't have
Not
one?
everybody had one.
Yeah, he
Okay,
does. Yeah, he
gotcha.
does. Yeah,
I was
he
gonna
definitely
say,
had a
not-
nickname.
not
Usually
from
they're,
baseball.
usually they're inappropriate
baseball.
names, so we can leave that
Yeah.
off. But
No, but I was reading my dad's yearbook a couple weeks ago. I was Benjamin Lewis, who owns Browder Height. He was over to the house, and his dad played with my dad on the 1965 undefeated Indians team. Like that was one of like the greatest teams ever from Cape Charles. And we just started talking about it, and his dad played on the same team with my dad. I was like, dude, get out of here. Because he was like, man, my dad always talked about this team at Cape Charles that was the greatest ever. And Coach Kane, Carl Kane, who was like a demigod or something, like people looked up like the movies. I mean, it's so surreal when you think about it, but he coached all major sports. He coached football, basketball, baseball. And nobody does that anymore now. You have all these specialists, but he did all three, and they were all good. And like the baseball, basketball, football teams were like state, champs.
highly qualified.
Oh yeah. Like I mean, like the best ever type thing.
Man.
And so we were talking about that the other day and going through. But the reason why I bring up the yearbook is talk about nicknames. See how I came back there.
Yeah, I like it.
And his girlfriend at the time, my dad's girlfriend in 1966, wrote in the yearbook talking about they were courting and doing these things. And it was like, I mean, yeah, seriously. But she said, and I remember something about being at a party and Pee Wee and Penny. It was like, so like nicknames, Pee Wee.
Yeah.
Like they had these all, and the girl's name wasn't even Penny. It was like Suzanne, but they called her Penny.
Exactly.
No rhyme or reason, just random nickname, right?
Right,
Just
right.
Nick, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so that was the Cape Charles that he and we saw that glimpse of the glory days still, and it was cool because we bring that with us now, and it shows like within what you do for the YMCA and to help the community, and like you can tell that pride is still there.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So that's what motivates you, right?
Oh yeah. And you still hear you even hear stories. So speaking of the YMCA, one of our members, Ashby Taylor, is a retired doctor, grew up in Norfolk, went to Norfolk Academy. Was telling me a story. I think it was back in the 50s that they had come over to play Cape Charles, and there was this big monsoon, and like they were on this ferry coming over to play Cape Charles. They got drenched. Ended up getting taken into people's houses, got warm clothes, a meal, and then the people in the town of Cape Charles, sort of sent these boys home with like, hey,
Dry clothes,
care packages.
Yeah.
We're going to pray for you to make sure you have a safe trip
Absolutely.
home. Just Eastern Shore and like who we are. So yeah, and a lot of that carries over into the work we do in the Y. One of the reasons I like doing this job is that I feel like every day when I go, and this is my quote all the time when I'm talking to people, but
Yeah, hit me with it.
when I go home every night, I know that something I've done or influenced that day helped somebody. It might be the smallest thing, but it helps somebody, and it helps me get up and go to work in the morning.
That's awesome.
So,
Wow,
yeah.
that's powerful.
And it's been how long now you've been with the Y?
So May 1st will be 18 years.
Dude.
Which was really funny because I totally went there thinking I'd be there a year or two and then I'm out. It was a transition job for me that has transitioned into a real career.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like you battled to get there, dude. I mean, I remember some of the things that you did working down like Rainforest Cafe and stuff, managing. So let me go back. Let me go back though, because dude, like he was the president of our senior class.
Oh, okay.
So it was like, I mean, he had that drive, that ambition, even in high school, and I remember that, like, he played 4 sports. He was a president of our class, which was like probably one of the best classes graduating from Northampton High School ever.
What do you mean one of? It was the best class.
It was.
The class of 1996. The class of 95 thinks they were, but no, it was us.
Yeah. They were awesome.
Yeah.
And we had some, like, I feel our football team, our junior year was better than our senior.
Oh, absolutely.
Don't you agree?
Yeah.
I mean, you had somebody who actually played in the NFL, Manir Moore.
Yep. Yep, the classes of 95 and 96, we were all also really, really close. There were a lot of siblings across the classes, but we really did kind of grow up together, just doing activities, playing sports, hanging out. The classes above and below us, we had some connections with them too, but it felt like 95 was sort of our little big brother.
Right.
Yeah.
I remember
cool.
like we would go down, Richard Hubbard, his mom would make us like spaghetti or lasagna before the
Yep.
games, every
Yep.
home game.
Yep. And then we watched the program.
Then we'd watch the program. Dude, that would get us fired up, man.
Yep.
Nathan Travis would be like, yeah. I mean, seriously, he was like, dude, he was intense.
Yeah.
Nathan was so intense on the football field, man.
Yeah, and and people talk about kids in sports today, like everybody's child's playing travel ball, everybody's focusing in on one sport, and we all played 3-4 sports, and we were really successful. And there was nothing special about us as athletes. I mean, I'm just put that out there. I mean, we were in shape teenagers like you want to be.
Dude,
but
this guy was state champ in wrestling.
No, I was second. I played.
Oh, sorry.
I was second. I was on the state championship team.
Exactly. See?
Be clear.
I couldn't say that. We only played for the state championship game for football and baseball. I didn't win those.
Yeah.
So at least you all won a state championship.
Yeah, we did, and we did some pretty cool stuff in the off season where I did beat all those state champions. But anyway, but we weren't what I would say great athletes in the sense that you see a lot of these kids that are like 5-star recruits and whatever.
Yeah.
But we all played sports together since we were small children. We all really got along with each other really well, and our parents were really involved. So that's what made us successful.
Who are your top 3 like mentors from the high school that you can? I already know what number one is.
Yeah, number one without a doubt, Brian Harmon.
Yeah.
I mean that's it by a mile.
Yeah.
But 3 or 4, that's a tough. That's tough. Mr. Hood, Bob Hood, that was owns Camp Greenbrier with his wife Mariah and his son Will. That family's always Will Harvey and the Hoods. They've always been very, very important in my life.
Dude, that would bum me out when Andre would leave every summer for camp because I didn't go to camp, but I started. One year I went to baseball. I went to Camp Pocahontas. I never left the shore.
Yeah.
So it's like he would leave, and I'm like, man, where's my friends, man? They're all at camps and stuff, and I'm just like palling around the shore.
Yeah, but knocking it down to 3 or 4, we had such great educators in our school. Christine Tanker, Sandra Lewis, Kevin McManus, Joe Maisco, Randy Parks, God rest him. There were just so many solid educators. Paul Custis is the principal and leader of the school with Charlene Church and Doc Wilfong. I mean, it was a recipe for success. How that was all set up, and we ended up being National Blue Ribbon School of Excellence when we left, and it really was because of all the elements there. Again, I can't say enough, and if I didn't mention the name, I'm so sorry, but just know that you could charge that to my head, not my heart.
Oh, I know. Well, because everybody was good. All the teachers were good.
Yeah.
But I mean, like Butch Travis is one that.
How did I not bring Butch up?
Well, no,
gosh.
because I guess that's my job tonight. So.
He also gave us a lot. He also gave us a lot of hell, though, too.
Dude, between me, you, and Phil Ames, I think he threw Phil Ames out of class like every day.
Or when we'd be sitting in class and out of the blue, he stopped teaching and turn around and start fussing at you about something you did at the football game Friday night.
Yeah.
And then Coach Conroe, we cannot leave him out. He was
the coach that would bring us into his class. We would watch game film during class.
Nice.
Like we were like. And we were in his class.
Well, like I would assume a majority of the kids that went there were all involved with sports.
Or something. Because it wasn't just sports where we were excelling at school. Like our newspaper was winning state championships. Like it was...
Wow.
So our forensics team, like everybody was doing something.
We had, in the technical school, we had a restaurant. They had their own newspaper.
The Jolly Jacket.
Their own newspaper, which Shane Pasquarelli... right? Remember
Wow,
him, dude?
yeah, Shane Passarelli, yeah.
That guy was like wanting to write articles and wrote the best articles in high school. And he went on to work for Eastern Shore News and under Ted Shockley, who we're going to have on Monday. We're going to have Ted Shockley on. So, and Ted was like, he did just the sports page, but he had like the sports page in the Eastern Shore News was like 10 pages sometimes.
Wow.
Like he filled that up with all high school sports.
And Greg Merritt, we can't
Greg
forget
Merritt,
Greg Merritt, another one gone way too soon. But yeah, that was he covered everything.
Yeah, no joke, no joke. So the high school had, I mean, we even had some of the top brains, the Lane family, how they were like, and Darren Collins, who went to MIT, and we had like brains at our school too.
Yeah, and Darren, like genuinely one of the nicest people you'd ever want to meet. Good athlete, and then MIT smart. I mean, come on, doesn't seem fair, right?
Yeah.
So the school then, I mean, it really it had those elements. And do you see? I'm hearing good things about Northampton now, and it seems like that they're doing some things moving forward. I know some people who are going there now. So what do you see now with the Northampton County schools and how they're shaping up?
You know, what I can tell you is they have a very hardworking and dedicated staff there in their schools that are doing everything they can to make sure these kids are successful. And, you know, in my role at the YMCA. As the executive director, I helped kind of partner with the schools. They wanted to pursue a 21st Century Learning Center grant, which is a big national grant to help fund after school programming. Because we have been, you know, Dr. Martin and her team had come to me early on to talk about after school programming, and we couldn't make it work right away, right? You know, the expense of it, you know, it was not something that people were familiar with. And we just couldn't make it work. And, you know, we saw the need and decided to keep working. And again, the supervisors got behind the effort. The school board was 100% behind the effort. And Dr. Martin, Dr. Lisa Martin, great superintendent, one of the all-time best in Northampton County history. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
And a good friend. You know, she worked with us, and we partnered with them on the 21st Century Learning Center grant. We got two $250,000 grants.
Wow.
Over 3 years to cover Kip Topeka and Occohannock elementary schools to get after school programming going there. And, you know, since I've started working more closely with them, I've seen the effort that they're putting into making sure these kids are successful. I see how the principals and school leadership teams have been very thoughtfully put together to make sure that they've got the right people in place to help drive these kids' success. And, you know, we're starting to see a whole lot of work towards parent and community engagement that I really haven't seen since we were younger. So
I was going to bring that up. Like, it sounds like this old Cape Charles, if we want to coin it that, right? Like the good times was community based, right? Where everything was within the town. You know, grew up playing baseball. You had that camaraderie, right? Of like bringing that throughout, but also you had the parent involvement, and you mentioned that.
Yeah, and I would expand that even more, and David, jump in here, but Northampton County was that way. I mean, it was a friendly place that where people looked out for their neighbors, and I mean that in the biggest sense of the word, of looking out for, because, you know, I've known people to, you know, take care of other people's groceries and stuff back then because they knew they didn't have it, and they wanted to make sure that those folks' kids ate. And, you know, it wasn't like I'm going to hound you to get it back, but that person would do everything they could to make sure they paid that back or paid it forward in another way. So that, you know, like these things that we're seeing as like viral moments on like YouTube and TikTok and stuff like that.
That was normal.
That was normal. That was like how people lived, and I think we were very fortunate to grow up in Northampton County and Cape Charles like that. Oh yeah, I mean, it was even the whole shore we were really close, and we would hang out with all the teams that we would play from Nandua and Arcadia,
and became really good friends. And we went to their shows, and of course we all hung out and partied together. You know, I mean, we.
So let's not talk about that.
No. But I'm saying, but it was
My kids might listen to this at some point.
But we all got together and we had fun, and like we were close. Like there was, we really loved each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and you remember, there's so many memories. My kids hate when we get together because they're like, oh, they're gonna tell stories again.
Yeah.
But it was fun though. I mean, because we all would hang out, and there was no strife at all, like throughout the whole school. And the school, you know, back then, you know, we had a good mix of students, and we had like, gosh, because we all grew up together and started school together, and so we had it from a young age. All of us just hung out, and you know, we didn't see any divide. It was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that you said that you felt like you were connected in a way without cell phones.
Oh yeah. Oh,
Without
dude. Yes,
right.
yes.
So, and then like we like to talk about, you know, some changes in today's society on this as well, which we can get into. But my question dealing with that is like, what sort of changes have you seen through your experience with the 18 years? Right, that or any sort of challenges that you might face, you know, with a changing society.
Yeah, so you know, the rise of social media definitely hasn't been the best thing for youth. You know, for me, for David, you know, like us quintessential Gen Xers that they make the memes about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's been kind of cool to use the reconnect, find people, that kind of thing. But
Yeah.
I think that it's opened up a little bit too much access for children, and I think that they're not equipped to really handle it. And what I've seen in my experiences, and you know, I would encourage any parent, every parent, that if you have an opportunity to send your kid to an away camp for a week, 2 weeks, whatever, in the summertime, do it, because those places are generally technology-free zones. And from my own kids' experience, my kids would go away between 3 and 6 weeks every summer.
Nice.
And they would not have technology the whole time. And when they would get in the car to come home at the end, they didn't miss it. And they had a great experience as children, and they connected, and they got to have conversations, and they got to solve problems, and they got to, you know, they got to fail. Like people are so worried about failing that they're not recognizing that children are learning lessons by failing. Like you know, that's how you grow. And so I think, you know, just that whole feeling of, you know, I have to put this face on and be this person that I'm portraying out here in social media, or that I'm seeing in social media, this example, this model, it's the worst thing for kids. And I'm really happy to see that, you know, we're starting to see some of our politicians make smart choices as far as like schools and rolling back cell phone access, and giving these kids an opportunity to just be kids again.
Yeah,
that's where I think they have too much access to information that is not healthy.
So I saw Liam. He, of course, first child. That kid was sheltered, and big time. And I say that because even Season jokes about
man,
that
and
now.
seriously,
but,
how is that kid taller than me? Was he? Like,
he's so tall.
That is not okay, David. We've been dealing with this for 40 years.
I know,
being
dude.
the short one, and now you're gonna have your child being taller than me. That ain't right.
I know, man. I know. But he was. I remember the very first year he went to Camp Silver Beach.
Oh yeah, it's the place to be.
And that experience, that week and a half, 2 weeks away from us, dude, when we picked him up, completely different kid.
And
like
even
he
like
found himself. Like he was like,
on the
this is
Eastern
awesome.
Shore and going to a camp,
Well,
right?
Well, I will tell you right now, with Camp Silver Beach and Camp Occohannock, we've got two fantastic summer camps here on the Eastern Shore, and they're very beneficial to children from the shore because it's a different experience than what you do every day.
Yeah,
and it showed. I mean, big time. And like we're all in, and he's gone now this will be his 4th year there, and our daughter's going this year. But like you see the first year, the cabin, they take a cabin picture, and he was the kid in the back, like was all like pasty and like, you know, and
Yeah.
it was like, dude, this
Ducking.
is awkward.
He's
but every year, like he's grown, and now he's up front and like, you know, like
front and center.
yeah, dude. I mean, just living life. And that's what you just need to do is just live life. Just have fun. You will have experiences if you just allow them to happen. You don't need this block carrying around all the time. Like, go out in the world and experience. And this is like a really cool place to grow up. And they're starting to realize that because of these camps, because of places like Camp Silver Beach. And you've been involved with that like since the very beginning, right? Or close to it?
No, you know, if they ever need something from me, I'm always willing to jump in and help. You know, I've done some stuff with staff training and stuff down there in the past, but you know, it's a YMCA at Southampton Roads program, so we all work together. And Danny Vestal is the executive director down there, and he and his team are doing a fantastic job. Dan Cradle was the original executive director, and we've had so many people come through over the years. But yeah, Camp Silver Beach it's a gem in the YMCA at Southampton Roads. I'll say that for sure. Put a little plug in there for.
Well, that's what this is about too, right? Like, you know.
Then I got to go to my heart. Camp Greenbrier for Boys out in West Virginia. Will Harvey and the family there. I started going there when I was 8 years old. My grandma worked in the kitchen there. So my grandma worked in the kitchen at Capeville Elementary School. She was the cafeteria manager there. And then she went and worked at Cape Charles at one point and had a long career with the school system. And went out, the Hoods invited her, Bob and Mariah invited her out to work at camp. And a few years later, I got to go on a scholarship, and one of the best things that ever happened to me. It was probably a turning point in my life. So,
wow.
Yeah, the Hoods played a major part in that too. I mean, those people were awesome. And his grandmother was awesome-er. Like I would have the greatest conversations with her when I'd come over. We're getting ready to go out for the night, and we go and hang out at his house and talk to his grandma, go to my dad's house, talk to my dad. We go to Mr. Rittenhouse's lodge, pick up Nick, and talk to Mr. Rittenhouse in the lodge.
Yeah, Mr. Rittenhouse, who owned the Rittenhouse Lodge and was one of our teachers for a year in sixth grade, he took in one of our classmates, and we were there all the time, man. playing video games and hanging out and ping pong and
And so that's Nick,
awesome.
That's Nick Bravo, and who is now Major Bravo.
Oh,
yeah, in the Army. Like, dude, like
this dude had an almost 20-year career in the VA, like as an occupational therapist, loving to death. Like we were the three amigos in high school. That's what people called us. He has almost, and then decides to go active duty military in his 40s. Yeah, like. Well, who does that?
I mean, Major Bravo does.
Yeah, but
he's him, dude.
He's done very well, and he has not changed really an iota.
No.
Still thinks he can dance. Still can't dance.
Oh man, yeah.
Still tries to present that gruff exterior, but we all know that he's a teddy bear on the inside. Like, so.
Dude, yeah, that was a blast, man. But yeah, like his grandma, we would have like the best conversation, and you can tell that Andre got a lot from her, and was it was massive.
His grandma was the same way.
Yeah.
Yep. So then that was it. When you all know each other's grandmas, like Nick,
right?
Nick's grandma used to make the breakfast on Saturday. She would do the homemade tortillas, and
oh man,
gosh.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
Dude, gosh, this brings back some memories, man. I saw Eddie Montavo the other day, and I hadn't seen him in a while. Gave him a big hug, and I was like, dude, your mom used to hook us up, man. Huevos rancheros. We'd get up in the morning, and she was there, and like the house was smelling good, and had this massive meal waiting for us on a Sunday morning, right?
Wow.
When we should have been getting up and going to church. This is maybe we finally rolled out of bed 11:30, 12 o'clock maybe. So it probably wasn't even morning. It may have been mid afternoon.
Yeah.
I think I missed out on those. But I remember you talking about church, and we just Little League and all that. I remember this one time we were playing All Stars, and we had a game on a Sunday. Sunday, and everybody's like, what's up? Eddie Spencer was the coach, Coach Spencer from Broadwater. So he goes, I remember him giving his like big pregame speech the night before, and he goes, and if you go to church on Sunday, make sure you get up and watch Bishop Elliott Willis on TV, and that's gonna be your God for this weekend because we're gonna play baseball or something like that.
I mean, that was. We can't make this stuff up. Like, seriously, like you think about. That's why as soon as Lucas said something about starting this podcast, I was all on board. I'm like, do you realize the stories and just the things from all the people, and even the ones coming here now? Like we talked earlier about growing up in Cape Charles and how it was. But what do you think of it now? Like, and where do you see that going?
I love the fact that the town's been revitalized. I think that things are going well. I think it's going in a great direction. I hate that people that had lived there for so long really aren't able to, hold on to their houses and stay, whether it's from age or, not being able to upkeep or whatnot. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of sad when you don't see the people you know in town anymore.
Yeah.
But that being said, there are some wonderful people that have moved there. I've met a lot of really great folks, and they care. They really care about the town. And as long as that continues and they keep caring about the town and investing and making sure that it's a place that's going to be here for a while, I'm all for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because we would play in like the houses on the beachfront were abandoned. Yeah, we would play in their basements.
Wow.
There was so many, like all these abandoned homes throughout Cape Charles, and we were like, we just had free reign of the town anyway. But that's how the town was, though. Like,
and like sometimes, like clams and oysters, you find them like if we were on the back beach, they'd be like, I don't know if they float over from Cherry Stone or whatever, but you just pop them open, eat them right there with a pocket knife, like just stuff like that. We played in the woods for hours and hours on end, and nobody was worried about where you were.
No, at all.
It was okay.
Like my mom never wanted me home.
Yeah.
So, which is an awesome thing because I never wanted to come home. Like I just wanted to be outside playing, and like as soon as I got out that morning, I was like, I'm going to the beach and I'm doing this. I'm going to see Dre because I lived down at Kings Creek, and so I would ride my bike down Fig Street, and you lived on Washington. And then off of Washington, because Grandma's house was on Jefferson.
Yep.
And so I would ride my bike down Washington on the Jefferson, and we would like hang out down there for a while, and then I'd go downtown, and the Coast Guard station housing was over here, and then
right down the street, and we had a bunch of friends.
So we had
there.
friends in there, and then we would go down, and the apartments were right here. But then as you go throughout the day, you're meeting up with your friends, and by the end of the day, like you have all the kids just have a blast.
You got a group.
Right, and then you might end up at the old Cape Charles High School where there was fields and playground equipment and whatever, and there's just a bunch of kids out there, not an adult in sight, and everything's all right.
Mm-hmm.
And dude, I mean, that's how it was. That's why there was no, bad blood at all. Period. There was no bad blood. Like there were skirmishes.
Yeah.
Like
which are healthy.
Yeah. Right. You had the things that would happen if somebody was like, dude, you talking to my girl, bro?
Yeah. Or you get somebody that would come, like, that will have moved into town that didn't quite get it and wanted to start stuff, over nothing.
Right.
And you have all these kids over here like halfway crying or whatever because none of us could fight. Like, like what's going on? And then you got the big bass so-called bully that's moved into town, and then we deal with it, and it'd be go back to normal.
Yeah, it would pretty quickly too. Yeah. Like they knew once they stepped in Cape Charles, they knew.
Yeah.
So it's clear that you have like a lot of family ties to the area. Mm-hmm. Why did you decide to stay?
So I didn't stay. I left.
Okay.
I left and then I came back. So I dabbled. I dabbled with college at first, and when I say dabbled with, I went there, wasted a bunch of money, and failed out, and then ended up having to go do something else for a while. And that something else ended up being the restaurant and bar industry, where I actually did pretty well for a while.
Yeah.
And I stayed in that for a bit. And when my wife and I were having our first kid, she was in Indiana, and we were dating at the time. She was in Indiana, and then we ended up getting together, and she was moving here because her mom and stepdad were here. it was just kind of fortuitous. I was living in Dallas, Texas at the time, and then I ended
Wow.
up coming back to the shore. And we raised our family here. Hadn't been interested in leaving because it was a good place for the kids. And so I came back after having some experience away, and I would encourage every
For
person
sure.
here to go away and
Yeah.
then come back. And I did eventually graduate from college because I had to have my job. But yeah.
Yeah, I think that's pretty powerful, like, because, grass is not always greener on the, and that's what I tell my students a lot, right? Is we need to learn to appreciate the natural beauty, the resources that we have. And it sounds like we need to do a little bit more of embracing the community. And, I think we could definitely work on that. But I always tell them you need to get away for a little bit.
Well, yeah, because you learn by doing, right? Like, and if you just stay here and don't go out and try some things, and you're limiting yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But that also being said, I know a lot of people that have stayed here and been very successful, and they love it, and so who knows what the right answer is? I always encourage people to go have some different experiences and then come back to the shore and help make things better.
Yeah.
For me, I had to. Like, I had to get away. And because if I stayed here, it would have been like, probably would have been, I don't even know. Like, because I don't even want to think about it. And so for me, went the college route to begin with because I was able to play football in college, because that's what I wanted to do,
Mm-hmm.
So I did that, and I was like, well, you know what? This isn't quite for me.
Yeah.
Like, I'm done with school. And so I wasn't going to come here because at the time there was really nothing here for us to do to like really earn an income.
I mean, nothing.
There was
Bayshore.
My father was
right.
like, my father was a waterman. My grandfather was a waterman. Like they worked on the water, but that was going away for like somebody who just wanted to go out, run some nets and try to make a living. Like, you couldn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I knew that I really didn't know what I wanted to do because I wanted to play sports for so long and wanted to play college sports and stuff. That's where my focus was.
Yeah.
And so I had to break myself of that because it was the wrong focus. And so I left school, didn't have a scholarship anymore because of other various reasons. And I was like, I can't pay for school. So I joined the Air Force. But I had to do that because it really, like, I needed that slap in the face, dude. Dude, wake up.
Yeah.
Like, you really need to experience life because like it's gonna teach you some things that you can bring back to the shore. So I know that if it wasn't for that to happen, like, I didn't want to come back. And I was living overseas. I did Air Force for 9.5 years. I lived got a job with Lockheed Martin, which was like one of my dream jobs. Like, that's what I wanted to do. And I mean, I was in the Skunk Works. Like, who does that? Like, I found myself working for the same ones that Kelly Johnson and the SR-71 and the U-2 spy plane and the F-117 Nighthawk. And that's what I did. I was a part of that legacy. And what attracted me there is kind of like Cape Charles. And growing up on the shore, like, that was like, oh man, like, this is old school, and they had pride, and you see the things they did. And so that attracted me to that. But I did that. So Caesar and I were living in Abu Dhabi and just gotten married, and which was awesome. We really had a good time there. But Wallops Island, at the time, there was a company called Basis Technologies. I don't remember if you remember Basis Technologies.
Basis.
Do you remember Basis
No.
Technologies being there? So what they did was that they did customization of wide body aircraft, and one of the aircraft we had in there was for the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. It was their Air Force One. And so this company, I was living overseas in Abu Dhabi, and I was like, you know what? We want to get back to the shore. And because she was from here and like she was really homesick. And I was like, all right. So I started looking at jobs, and this popped up, and they hired me. And the guy called me and said, do you know where Wallops Island, Virginia is? And I was like, I'm from there.
Yeah.
I want to come there. And he's like, all right. 2 weeks later, Lockheed had just like spent a lot of money on me to get over there, get settled in. You know, like I was, they spent a lot of money on me.
Mm-hmm.
And so like after like 6 months, I was like, I'm leaving. I put my 2 weeks in, and they're like, "What are you? We just spent all this money getting you here. We need you here for this, you know." And it was kind of like that.
You're lucky they didn't break your legs.
I know, but it was kind of
Right over
I was
there,
like,
yeah.
dude, I was like, I don't want to be in the military anymore. Like
Mhm.
I was done with that life, and so Lockheed was awesome, but it was still like they were treating me like I was still in the military, and so I was like, you know what, I'm going to take this job, and that brought me back here, and so I've been up at Wallops since 2008 for 17 years now, which is crazy that I'm doing that, but you know, Wallops was never a thought for me growing up because they just never talked about that. Like nobody down in the lower part of the shore ever talked about Wallops Island. And I never knew that even was a thing.
Yeah, and now it's a big damn deal.
So, but even back then it was because there was a lot
Yeah.
of history there.
Yeah.
There was, you know, Werner von Braun and Kelly Johnson, who I was just talking about, like these giants of an industry, aerospace industry. They tested their thoughts, emotions, feelings out there. They lived out there amongst the mosquitoes. You know, like they were like on Wallops Island as establishing this place, these giants of aviation.
Because there was nothing else there but mosquitoes.
That was it. That was it because you couldn't live there. Nobody wanted to live there. Green-head horseflies and mosquitoes. Like who wants to live there, right?
Man, yeah.
So they were able to do this testing out of there, and that really started 80 years ago. I think in 45, you know, Operation Paperclip that brought over Werner von Braun and the Nazi scientists. You know, like the shore had these people here.
Wow.
We had people from World War II that were part of Operation Paperclip that like established these new technologies that the Nazis were working on in World War II. They were here on the shore, dude.
That's cool.
And so like that really attracts me to being up there and to seeing that place succeed. And so I've been able to grow in my career and where I'm working for NASA now. And actually Lucas works up there now too as a radar technician for the range. And, you know, we bring this talent in up there, and we want it to be local talent because I know that once local people start working up there more and more, that there's going to be more pride in that. But the people coming in, like Lucas from Brazil, he brings that pride because that's how he grew up too, with a close-knit family and things that we had, you know. And so he saw that back home and brings a different perspective to it. But like Wallops does that for us. And so, you know, do you know of like some of the projects and stuff that we're doing up in Wallops? Have you worked with Wallops at all through education?
So you know, personally, I have not. But you know, like everybody else, I read and I see what's coming up in Shore Daily News and what's coming through the Eastern Shore Post, and you know, I talk to people and hear about a lot of these educational opportunities that are coming to the shore through partnerships with Wallops, and it's really impressive to me that those companies, you know, are making that kind of investment here. And, you know, so you tell me about it, man. Like,
Well, here's what's happening is, and I've told these guys before too, that Wallops is bringing in these commercial companies that truly care and that want to be a part of that late 40s, early 50s time frame when Werner von Braun and Kelly Johnson and others were here. And like Dr. Goddard, like, I mean, people that have like centers named after them were here. And so you're seeing that now, these new companies that are coming in, and because they can innovate, they can do things up there. And so you're going to see new technologies beginning to come out up at Wallops. And we really want the people of the shore to be a part of that. All up and down the shore, like we really want to get the outreach to Northampton. And because again, like when I was growing up, I didn't know anything about it. And if I knew something about it, like that would have been my goal to begin with. And I could have started a lot earlier in something that I really love to do.
And you know what's really interesting about that? You know, growing up on the shore, if you were going to stay here, when we were around, you knew your options were you could work at Tyson's or Purdue, which were very good jobs. You could work at Bayshore. You might get a job at the Bridge Tunnel, teaching, and there weren't, or you could maybe get into, you know, policing, EMS stuff, but there really wasn't a bunch of other opportunities here. And it's kind of cool now that like you can live here, and if you want to be an engineer, technician, whatever, these opportunities are popping up that we didn't see back then. and it's bringing people here, but also I think it's going to keep some folks around that really want to be here as well.
Yeah, I started working with the Aerospace Academy of the Eastern Shore. That is ODU partnered with the Eastern Shore Community College in both counties. And we're beginning to build curriculum for these students. And so we were just the other day, I had a meeting with the director of it, Dr. Rachel White. And she sat down with me and like gave me the whole entire presentation that she gave to Accomack County and to Northampton County school boards, I think a couple weeks ago. And they were like some really good information, and it inspired me. Like, it excited me. And I was like, I want to be a part of this, because I had sent her my resume a couple weeks ago. And because Philip Smith, who, again, a name pops up again, Philip Smith is going to be on this show. Because he keeps popping up. There's a reason why he keeps popping up. But he and Dr. Joyce Winterton invited me to be a part of the open house last year for the Aerospace Academy, and I couldn't make it. We had something was going on. I had a family matter or something happen, and so I really wanted to be a part of that. And I was bummed out that I missed it. But they said, reach out to her because she wants to talk to you, because they had mentioned me and conversations and stuff. And so I'm so glad she did, because this presentation that she showed me really excited me that right away I started thinking about, oh my gosh, these high school students can launch a rocket in 4 years.
So I'm going
seriously, like,
it's crazy. But what's even like sitting here watching you do like talk about this and seeing your passion. When we were in high school, both of us about to fail algebra, I would have never thought that you would be doing anything in aerospace.
I didn't know what I wanted to do.
Blowing out the candle.
I had zero clue. I was like, what am I? Like, I didn't care. I was flying by the seat of my pants, having a blast. You know, like, and that's all I wanted to do was just have fun.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't go to class. I didn't, I did just enough so I could play football. Like, seriously, like, if Northampton High School didn't have sports, I never would have gone. I would have been like surfing on Chincoteague or fishing off in Chesapeake Bay. Like, I did not want to go to school, dude.
And there you go. There's a plug for extracurricular activities at school, because they actually make kids go. Because I'm with David.
gosh.
I might not have been at school if it weren't for the things that were going on.
Yeah, and a plug for, some of these types of programs that we can enrich our community with.
Yes, because, dude, if I had known in high school that I was going to launch a rocket my senior year, oh my gosh. Like, mind blown. Like, I would have been like all in with that. And we did some cool things, like Bill McCarter and Doug Coburn and a couple of I got to think of their teachers. They did a
Tom Bonowell.
Tom Bonowell.
I know what you're about to say. I was talking to him about this the other day.
They put together a class at Northampton that was like using the Eastern Shore of Virginia and its beauty and its history and and use that as classes. And so we would like go out among the populace of the Eastern Shore. And I did a project with Bill McCarter and which, have you been hang gliding with Bill McCarter at all?
I have not. My kids have been flying with him, but we haven't done the hang gliding.
I'm going hang gliding because that's just me. But I haven't
sounds
done
like
it.
fun.
I haven't done it yet. And so, he had that passion and that drive and like really wanted to make things happen, because they saw kids like me who like I just really school didn't interest me at all. So these programs that these teachers started, that like they saw there was a need for students who just really wanted to be a part of, I don't know, just life and live. And they saw spirit, and they, because it was Eastern Shore. What was it called? What was that called?
I can't remember. I saw Tom at the Y a couple weeks ago, and I was.
I'm sorry.
About that.
I'm sorry. I don't remember.
Like,
but I had a project where I went out with Bill, and he took me to Willis Wharf, and I sat down with ladies from Hog Island, and like I recorded their conversations.
That's cool.
And
I didn't know that.
Interviewing them and everything.
Yes.
Wow.
And I mean, I was doing a podcast back then, I guess.
Yeah,
I didn't even
much.
realize it. But like I sat down and interviewed them, and that really excited me to do that, because my grandmother grew up on Hog Island in Broadwater, and these ladies knew my granny, and so like to hear those stories, and that's why I really wanted to use this podcast to capture all of this too, because of something that I did because of these teachers.
Yeah, I mean, they were all great, and,
Yeah.
and I see them now. Like I run into them in the community, and it's still Mr. and Miss So and So, Coach So and So,
Mm-hmm.
and they it's just it's so uplifting to see these people that work so hard to make sure that we got a good education and that we had good experiences with these trips and clubs and programs and
And that's
yeah.
obviously has influenced you in your position today,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. One of the things I'm very interested in my career with the Y is like learning and development and helping like develop young directors
Oh, cool.
to be the best that they can be.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, at my ripe middle age right now, I'm not gonna put that out there, but
He's 47, ladies and gentlemen. We're the same age. He's 47.
All right, so
Don't let him fool
since I've been
you.
put on blast at 47.
Yeah.
No, 20 years, my career's done, right? And like, I really value the work that we do in the Y. I really value the impact that we can have, and I want to see other people be able to do it as well.
Mm-hmm.
And with learning and development stuff, one of the great things that I've gained for myself is that seeing that this next generation can probably do it better, and they're going to have some innovative ways to do things that that I've done, and they're going to take it to the next level and make it so much better for the communities that they serve. We've done a lot of things with the Y here with we've taught so many swim lessons on the shore. Before the Y was here, there really wasn't a public swim lesson option. There was a few private teachers, but there wasn't a public swim lesson option that was accessible to everybody else. And the YMCA brought that. And we've done things with youth sports and all health and wellness activities. One of the most interesting things I've seen is how the demographics of the Y have shifted over the last almost 20 years. So, when I first went in there was definitely a very specific demographic of people that were working out. And now, I'm starting to see more and more older adults, people that in their, in their 55 and up years that are actually coming and being very active on a regular basis that would put some of us in high school to shame when I look at how they work out. Older Black and Hispanic people, I didn't see a lot of them in the Y or in the Wellness Center back in 2007 when I started, and now I'm seeing it all over the place, and it's because of this team that I work with. I'm not very talented at any specific thing. I'll say this, but what I am good at is putting good people around me that know what they're doing.
Yeah, that's a skill. Yeah.
And those people, they make it look like I'm competent, but I'm not. Just kidding. No, they're amazing. I gotta shout them out. Tasha Lucy, our membership and aquatics director over 2 centers, and I gotta tell you that job's huge. That's most of what happens at the Y.
Yeah.
Between membership and aquatics, yeah. And then we've got Kathy Caulfield, who's our regional health and wellness director, doing all these great programs, and Maria Knox, who's our family experience director, and then Samantha Waterfield, who does she's our youth development director that does after school programming, camps, licensed childcare, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But those ladies, they have, and many others over the years, but they work really hard to make sure that the Y is providing like good, solid programming in this community. When people call me and say, "Hey, can the YMCA come to this event, or can we partner with you to do this?" I hand it to them, and they take it and they hit it out of the park.
Yeah.
It's their hard work, their competence, their skill that gets things done. So I want to be very transparent and make sure that I'm giving them the shout out and the flowers they deserve.
Well, go ahead.
And that's why Andre is the man.
Yeah.
Seriously, I mean, that's why he was the president of our class.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's a skill.
No,
man.
I was the president
Social
of the class because
charisma.
I came up with the whole little rap thing and and had the bodyguards walking me up to the stage. You know, remember that? Like,
His campaigning was
Yes.
good.
I was a good
man.
campaigner, yeah.
Dude, yes. Yeah.
Man.
I mean, we had fun with it for sure.
Well, it's funny because often I feel like sometimes there tends to be, if you don't grow up here or you don't know about the community, you know, you tend to leave, right? Because there aren't things to do, right? We don't have a major shopping center or whatever. And sometimes I think people feel like they're compromising in a way, or they're sort of sacrificing to have this beautiful nature, right? I can't have my Olive Garden in Trader Joe's, right? Or something along those lines. But it sounds really refreshing that you and your team are working like really hard to enhance this experience for the students so that they will come back here in a way. And I really appreciate that. I think that's awesome.
And not just the students, you know, the people, the adults that live here. We're trying to have things for them as well. And listen, it's not just the YMCA. You know, your Parks and Rec departments in both counties. You know, the ESO. Oh my gosh, all the great things that have been happening here for how long has this place been around? Like longer than I can remember. Anyway.
Yeah, I'm not.
So
I think they just had their 40th.
Yeah.
So Miss Dana,
or something.
Miss Dana, she when she first moved here, I met her because she started renting a house from my dad.
Wow.
And so she remembers me like when I was like 16.
Wow.
So just a punk. You know, she probably wanted to like.
You were a snot-nosed punk. I mean,
like I was just, you know, like it was like I was just having fun. And that's what I wanted to do. I just wanted to have fun.
yeah. I mean, and then like all.
I mean, sometimes I took it a little too far, you know, and
man, I am imploring you, do not get us in trouble on this show.
No. But I'm just saying. But we were having fun. We were having fun.
Yes, we did. We definitely did. And,
But
you know,
that's
what it is.
So Cape Charles though it's beginning to the interest. Like it's cool to come to Cape Charles. Like people call it the Cape now.
Oh,
You
really?
know? I mean,
Dude,
so it's trendy, dude. Like it's in magazines as the Cape.
When we were in college, like I would try to explain to people, like I would say the Eastern Shore, and they'd be like, "Oh, I've heard of that, and you guys are partiers," and this. But then they would like ask where it was, and you have to like, okay, well, we're about 40 minutes north of Virginia Beach. You got to go across this, like, and now you say, "Oh, I'm from Cape Charles," and people are like, "Oh, I was there for vacation last summer." And
Dude, it's become that
the
place.
Cape.
Yeah, you remember Vance Martin?
Yeah, Vance and Vicky.
Vance and Vicky, and our classmates. He's a police officer in Northern Virginia.
Is he really?
Yeah. And then like one of his he was having a conversation with one of his colleagues, and they're like, "Yeah, we're going on vacation this week. Yada yada. Yeah, this place, Cape Charles, Eastern Shore." And he's like, "Seriously, that's where I'm from." And like, he calls me and he's like, "Man, can you believe somebody's coming to Cape Charles for vacation?"
I love it. And what's really cool about it is that our friends that we grew up with, like, they have stores there and they have businesses and they're adults and they're like a part of this wave because they really care. And they want to see Cape Charles like really, really like bring that glory back.
So, Festive Fridays, going into Cape Charles on Festive Fridays now is like old home week.
Isn't that awesome?
It is.
Man, like,
It's pretty powerful.
It's the coolest vibe. Dude.
It's awesome.
Yeah, you're just walking down the street. You see everybody's come home. Like you get out in front of Gull Hummock and Nathan and Heather are out there playing and everything. Like it's just you see everybody.
It's got music. It's got culture, right? It's I think what embodies a lot of the Eastern Shore right there.
And it's hip and it's cool and it's like, you know, it's like the Starbucks when it first came out. Like we're the new Starbucks. But it's like cooler.
But I think Cape Charles,
like we're hip.
But I think they're also figuring out that I don't know how to put this, but I don't think it's that flash in the pan.
No.
They're figuring out how to sustain that and make people want to keep coming back. And
that's right. That's right.
Like, you know, I know, you know, we've seen some different things with different businesses and stuff down there, different restaurants, like, and things come and go. But I feel like there's like a real feeling, like a sustainable feeling about what's happening with that town, right? It is a cool place to be.
You know, my thought on the whole thing.
All right, what's up?
Is the wildlife refuge down at the old Air Force Base,
Oh man.
right down
man.
at Kiptopeke. Like, dude, we could build a launch site there, and like we could launch rockets out of there. Like seriously, like we could get the permits. And
Don't they have like the old bunkers still?
They do.
Yeah.
They do. And like I remember when it closed down, and the cannons were still there.
They're still there.
The cannons that they fired one time. Have you heard the story?
No.
Do you remember the story?
I don't remember the story, but I've seen the cannons.
So they fired the cannons one time, and they were like these massive, like it literally shot like a Volkswagen Beetle out of it. The
Sweet.
shell was massive. I mean, huge cannons to get the Nazis coming in, you know, in World War II. I mean, that's exactly what it was for.
Yeah, right. A lot of the like islands had watchtowers.
Yes,
and stuff,
yes.
you
But
know?
this was there. Like they had like firepower there, dude.
Wow.
And so then it became an Air Force station, and that's how my uncle Tony Morbido came here. Sicilian came here from Sicily, which I got another story about that too, which was really cool. But that was the Air Force station. That's where he met my dad's sister, and that's how my uncle Tony came into my life. But like I envisioned that, like we could seriously like. The airspace is the same airspace we use at Wallops. It's actually a less inhabited area. We can shoot in a trajectory that you wouldn't have. Virginia Beach wouldn't even be a thought, right? It would just be clear ocean if we launched from there. And you could have like this coming wave of technology that's coming here to the shore, like, and you could legitimately.
Oh,
dude,
that's
they
it.
are.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Look at that. Dude, I'm telling you, it's the size of a Volkswagen.
So I can go to the
Volkswagen.
wildlife refuge now and find these cannons.
Dude, if you park behind the Bridge Tunnel Welcome Center there,
Yeah.
and there's a little path, you can just walk down that path, and it's like a 10-minute walk. And
I can see that.
So they fired them one time, right? Because they used to be up here. They were mounted up top here. They weren't mounted there, and they were able to go like 200 degrees or something like that, right? So it could cover a lot of area if they shot this thing. So they shot it one time, and it cracked the structure. It was such a powerful weapon that they under-engineered it, and they cracked it, and they never fired them again. They're like, hey, okay, we're just going to use these as decoys. Don't tell anybody. Shh. They'll blow you away, but no, they weren't going to fire him. Though,
I've never heard that story before.
Me either.
Yeah, so I mean, my Uncle Tony, like,
What were they firing at?
So no, they were just doing a test.
They were testing.
They were testing. They were trying
So
to
the
prove
test
the
failed.
system. This was the first time that had ever been shot, dude. One time, and they were like, you know what? Test run number 1.
Could you
I'm like,
imagine how that went?
Don't tell anybody. We're just going to use these as
Like,
decoys for the rest of the
Could you
war.
imagine being the project manager on that thing and just be like,
God.
And that's what I do now. I run projects. Like I launch stuff now.
dude,
I'm in charge of people that launch stuff.
you were
to
sitting there
outer
failing
space.
algebra with me 25 years ago. Like, how are you?
Now he's
I was that guy who, dude, because I was thrown out into the world and told, you know what? Learn how to live your life. You know, like you do this. Like our parents didn't really parent us. They allowed us to be and to live.
Hold on, let me qualify that a little bit more. They didn't coddle us, but if we got out of line, we were put back into line.
No,
Yeah.
dude. No, because my mom, I remember the last time she spanked me, I laughed at her and she said, okay, I that's not going to work anymore. Like
Yeah.
I was beyond that, you know, like
Yeah.
you couldn't beat me anymore. I'm ready to rock and roll, dude.
But there was a point where it happened, and you knew it.
Oh yeah. Because
I'm still scared of my mom.
She's still.
I'm not gonna laugh at Deborah.
I know.
will not.
I know. The one time I said a really bad word at the dinner table, this one time my mom smacked me, like she was behind me doing dishes, and I said the word,
Yeah.
right, and she hit me probably 1,000 times right in the back of my head, tore me up, dude.
Man.
Don't you ever say that in my house again.
And so here's the funny part. His mom is the sweetest lady in the world. Like, I'd never even seen her raise her voice or get upset.
Oh yeah, I have.
And I was at his house a lot.
It's because she liked you. She never liked me. You and Nick,
Yeah.
she loved you guys. Like I was.
Oh yeah.
You guys were the son she never had. You know what I mean? Seriously, like they come over and my mom let us pretty much just, you know, we had fun.
Yeah, we hung out.
We came in. She didn't say anything. She always kept like food in the fridge. Oh yeah,
orange pineapple Kool-Aid. That was the best.
Like, I mean, like she hooked us up, dude, and like she knew when Andre was coming over and Nick was coming over because that's when she would buy Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
She wouldn't buy it for me because I was
Yeah.
too rambunctious.
But we like the yeah.
So I never got it,
pineapple.
but when they came over, I got it, and so I always had them at my house because I got cool stuff.
Yeah, she was always really sweet to us. Yeah,
Dude, and you know, and that's how we grew up, and that's why we had to take pride, and we're seeing these things happening on the shore now, and like you really buy in, and it was, I do apologize to my teachers though. I don't want to get rid of this because I do want to apologize to them because they were really cool with me because they just knew they knew me and they cared about me and they allowed me to come in and take my test, which I would ace. Like I would never do homework. I hated doing homework, but I would ace my exams. Mm-hmm. I'd get the exact number I needed just so I could go play ball. Mm-hmm. And then it was like football, basketball, baseball. I did just enough. So it wasn't.
I'm gonna tell you a secret. You weren't special. Because that was me and about 3 others I can think of too had that same sort of deal going.
Right. I mean, but we were smart. We just wanted to do other things.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so I'm sorry to my teachers because they all had a major impact on me. I mean, these stories that we're sharing now is because of people like them, and like I really enjoyed growing up because of them, and they saw potential in us that I didn't see.
I apologize every time I see one of them.
So I know.
I feel like I'm good at this point.
I go and talk to Coach Matt. Kevin McManus. Do you know him? Works in Ace.
I think so. Yeah.
So he coached us in football and taught us in school.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Earth science teacher.
Yep. And
that's cool.
Like. He got me, and like and I love going in there and talking to him now.
Do you remember after the football games, so astronomy was part of his gig, and he had all of us into the stars. Like we would be out there looking for constellations, talking about we'd be out after games with the lights off, just looking at the sky.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. I mean, because we never wanted to go home.
But
we were having so much fun.
That was a prime example of those, like that generation of teachers finding those teachable moments, right?
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah, and I've coached Broadwater the last few years, and I coached the varsity baseball team for 2 years, and that was a blast. And because it's like I saw at the time that they had talent coming up, and I was looking at how things were, and I was like, you know what, we really can make this like playable again. Mm-hmm. And these kids, they weren't having fun. They weren't playing baseball. They were just kind of like doing something. And so I that's one thing because of these coaches and teachers that I had growing up, like that's how I coach too. And because I want them to see how things were. And then I took over and I just wanted to make baseball fun again.
Yeah.
Because that's what we had. Because all of us were so close and we had fun. We had fun beating the crap out of each other, dude. Like all these guys that we hung out with and stuff, we would beat the mess out of each other during the game, and we go hang out afterwards. They all come down to my remember my beach parties that I had down there.
Oh yes, I do.
Dude, we had. I think
kids. BMRC probably remembers them too.
We had kids that came down from Salisbury to these parties. They're like, dude, there's a party at Smith Beach, and they're like, let's go, because they knew we had like the best parties.
It was pretty fun. I'll tell you all a secret. So I played football in college. I was a good wrestler. Yada yada. I liked wrestling probably more than anything. Mm-hmm. The only reason I played football was because of my friends. Didn't even really like playing the sport that much, but it was an opportunity to hang out with my friends and have fun. Yeah, that was it. Like if it weren't for friends, I don't think I would have played football and baseball.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because baseball was my passion. Yeah. But I started playing football in middle school. Chuck Bono was the head coach in middle school, and another like coach that saw like potential in all of us, and we were able to like really play some good quality football because we were having a blast. I had never played. I mean, I played in the backyard and stuff because baseball was like little league. You started at a very young age.
Yeah. Like
I started t-ball at 4. And so I played nothing but baseball. I did some soccer at Indiantown Park, like
nice
playing soccer in jeans.
Yeah.
That's how we did it, dude. Mm-hmm. We played in jeans and a t-shirt.
Yeah.
Like no cleats. I didn't have cleats. But I was just having a blast because I was playing soccer, dude, and I was able to start hitting people and like.
How did that go? Because I'm gonna tell y'all something. Soccer players are generally fast, right?
Normally, yeah.
David's nickname
I was a goalie.
David's nickname was That Makes Sense.
I was a goalie.
David's nickname on the football team was Slow Mo.
Dude, I was like an awkward.
He just like looks like
But
he's running
no,
in slow
I was like an
motion.
awkward giraffe.
But it was like,
Like really long, like I really didn't know how to move my body.
but it was like he had flypaper or glue on his hands or something because he didn't drop the ball. Like he caught everything, but he wasn't going to get very far. I was like, so if he's going to get a touchdown, he needed to be standing in the end zone
So
on the 1 yard line when he caught it.
No, listen to me. Our junior year, we had a gentleman by the name of Manir Moore, who was drafted by the Broncos and played football and went to University of Richmond and like excelled. This dude, like his 40 time, I swear it was like 3.9.
And he didn't play football till our senior year, or till his senior year.
Jeez.
And so
Yeah, because he was that class of '95.
No, he played. No, he played. When we were sophomores, he played junior. He played junior and senior year.
I didn't remember that. But anyway, okay.
Dude, blazing fast. Oh my
Either
gosh.
way, 2 years of high school football at most.
Yes.
And he
goes on to play.
Yeah.
Get
'Cause
drafted.
he was so fast, dude, and he had skill and he was smooth. I mean, he just had that, when he was making a cut, like he did it in a way
So,
that it's like, what just happened?
Yeah, when I
Yeah.
say we weren't athletes, he was.
Yes. So our junior year, thank you for plugging this for me because I'm going to hype myself up some. So our junior year, I led the team. I led the shore in receiving and yards that year
Wow.
because Manir was being double teamed.
Oh, all the time.
So Nathan Travis was like just hitting me with passes left and right. Like I caught a lot of balls that year and had a lot of fun because of that. But so I can say that I had more yards and more receptions than Manir Moore did.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, so and he played the NFL. So I got that. I
Yeah,
got that going
you got
on.
that.
For me,
You do have that
know?
going on for you. But, yeah, we played some pretty, because we played Green Run that year.
Plaxico Burris.
Yep.
Yep.
That was fun.
Wow.
We played Michael Vick was a freshman on Warwick.
Yep.
Do you remember that?
Yep.
We had we had
Jamboree.
Beast. We had Beast here, and we played Thomas Jones in the state championship game, and of course he played in the NFL, and his brother played in the NFL, and like we played.
We were the
with
only
Beast.
team, I think, in his high school career to keep him to under 100 yards rushing.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
I think he had 99 yards in that game.
I tackled him off the end one time, and I threw him down. I was like, whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever.
No, he was a
That
beast.
game.
He was a beast. He was a
You
beast.
caught the only touchdown we had in that game.
I did.
The receiving touchdown because we had two, right? Was it?
No, it
No,
was.
just
So
one.
what position did you play?
I played offensive guard, and then I was a defensive end.
Mm-hmm.
And Nick Bravo that we talked about before. So again, the three of us were best friends in high school. Nick and I actually together made first team All State that year, our senior year.
Wow.
For defense.
That's awesome.
That was really fun. We were able to share that. Yeah.
Dude, because they were beast. They were beast. I mean, we had just really, really good athletes, but again, though, we were having fun.
It was more about the fun, man.
Oh my gosh, we were having so much fun because it was like, dude, like, and we didn't even realize what we had done, and until like way after. Like, I think back now, like those 3-4 years of high school here, and all the things that we did, and the impact that it's made, and just knowing that. No teams have been back since then.
We went from a losing record as a varsity team our freshman year because we all played JV, which we had a winning record in JV, but our varsity team, which we all
played
as
played freshmen,
special teams and stuff like that.
The Washington brothers were at Nando still beating his, and
so we went from a losing team to state finals in 4 years.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
And you don't even. It went by so fast. That whole senior year. It was state championship game football. Basketball had already started. I missed the first game. Then I went to basketball. I played basketball. We went all the way to states that year. Didn't get to the championship
Final
game,
Four.
but we went to Final Four. And then baseball had started, and so we started and I missed like 3 or 4 practices, and that tore me up because it was baseball season.
That was your sport.
Yeah.
I played basketball just as a filler.
Yeah,
like I
get you in shape or something.
I could play.
Yeah, we were Final Four in soccer, Final Four in Final Four in soccer, Final Four in basketball. baseball state championship game, football state championship game, wrestling state champions.
Wow.
Like it was
The real deal.
yeah, and it was all like again, I still say it all was about like how we lived and how we came up, not about us being the best athletes. And I've jokingly said a few times that we weren't athletes. Like we were good athletes, but we weren't, those 5-star recruits. We were just we were regular kids that worked hard and had families that supported us and coaches and teachers that cared.
But you know why that is though too? Because when I got in the Air Force and I started playing ball again and got out there and was competing again, and I talked to guys and learning about different things and seeing different things, and we were so isolated back then. Like people just didn't know about us. Yeah. Like seriously, like because Broadwater at the time too, they had guys like Philip Smith, and they
played for the state championship the same year.
They did. Like they had because we played Greenbrier and they played Greenbrier. We never played Broadwater. And Greenbrier was like, and they still are the top baseball team in the state, and they have been. I mean, back this is when the Upton brothers are playing for them, and David Wright and guys like that. And we would go out and we would beat them. And Broadwater would go out and like they would beat them. And it's like, dude, why are we playing each other? And that was always a thing. It's like, dude, who would have won? Yeah. Everybody always thought that, like in football and baseball.
Do you remember being down at the Reed Farm that one night and the beer bottle football game with the
I thought you said you weren't like, how do we even get a beer bottle? None of us drank.
Oh no, I didn't say that. I said don't get us in trouble. But I will say that beer bottle just happened to be conveniently there.
Yeah, just washed up.
Broadwater against Northampton. Ted Ames.
And I'm
Ted Ames, who was the quarterback of the Broadwater Vikings.
I'm certain the game never really ended. But it was a fun stupidity.
No, because then I started shooting the spud gun, the potato cannon out there, and the people like that's when we knew the game was done.
Yeah.
When I started shooting the spud gun and shooting corn cobs at people like over a house.
Now I'll be so bold as to say this: if we actually were playing football against Broadwater back then, we would have beat them, and it wouldn't have been because they didn't have good players and whatnot. We had
really
good, but we also had so many more kids.
Yes. Yeah,
so
yes. I mean, they were good too, but
I mean, I can't. At one point, I had figured out the number, but like I think we had 9 starters on, so the 11 starters on defense our senior year. 9 of them were seniors, and I think 7 or 8 went on to play in college.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that because I had the picture of all of us signing for football.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, we've got that. Right. And
yeah.
like there was like we signed yeah, I mean that's crazy, dude. Crazy.
It's quite a
because of Ted Shockley, who was covering us. Ted Shockley in the newspaper back then like made sports like really cool because that's how it was everywhere else too, and made it a big deal. And I loved that. That motivated me too, because I would wake up on Wednesday or Saturday and I get the newspaper looking at the scores and stuff and seeing if my name was in there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, seriously. So when Ted Shockley's on here next week, like, I'm a fanboy of his. Like he was hooking me up back in the day, dude. So that's how
cool.
Yeah. It was really cool at parties when I was like, hey, I'm David Stiles.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in the newspaper. What do you think? I was such a punk, dude.
But it sounds like what I'm gathering is like almost more important than skill is like team chemistry.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Right. Like,
yes.
And I'm like, because I have it's a Blue Crab Bowl team. It's like a marine science competition.
I know.
And I'm a firm believer that you need to have the right dynamic of people. So where, like you guys are saying, you're having fun, right? You're competing, but you're having fun. So I think that's really cool that, you still remember the times of having fun.
Well, yeah. And I can say unequivocally, some of the times where we had some of the best athletes that were on the team,
mm-hmm.
they ended up not playing the whole season, and we did better when we didn't have them.
Really?
Mm-hmm. I'm not going to say names, but it happened a couple times.
It happened a couple times? That's awesome. Man. I've got some good stuff written down back here. The orange pineapple Kool-Aid. That's what I think I'm going to have to call this episode.
Oh, yeah, orange pineapple.
Oh, yeah, orange pineapple.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because it was the Kool-Aid dude was busting through saying, oh yeah.
Oh, that's great.
And every so often,
And chicken salad.
oh, your mom.
Remember?
And house burgers.
Oh, dude.
Mr.
House
Rittenhouse,
burgers?
yeah, so Mr. Rittenhouse, who owned the Rittenhouse Lodge, which is now the Cape Charles Milestone Lodge, was we talked about who he was earlier.
Uh-huh.
He used to make the most amazing hamburgers, and it was always on like a potato roll.
Oh man, I
Oh, my
love
gosh.
potato roll.
He would stuff the burgers with like onions and peppers, and
Oh,
like he would
man.
have like things stuffed in the burgers, and he fried it on a skillet,
Like a cast iron.
cast iron. Which,
Mhm.
and he's the reason why I use cast iron now. Like I have 3 pans and cast iron. We use those every single day because of him. Because of him. Not knowing that iron is so good for you,
Mhm.
and that's why people didn't have iron deficiencies back in the day because they
Yeah.
all used this cookware.
Mhm.
So we went to this, newfangled contraption, Teflon.
Yeah.
And people got away from that, and they're like, "Oh, we have iron deficiency." Well, because you're overloaded with iron because you're using it for centuries to cook with.
Mm-hmm.
So your body needs that,
Yeah.
Excuse me.
So, but it was Mr. Rittenhouse in his house burgers.
House
They
burgers.
motivated me,
Yeah.
dude.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, and because we would, that was a motel, and we would stay there.
Yeah, I don't think
We
I've
would
ever
crash
been
there, dude.
at that place. Whenever I would drive by before it got fixed up, it was always like kind of like a fantasy, like alluring type of like, ooh, I want to go check that out with like the underneath the pine trees and like
And
it was-
had you gone in there, you would have had a wonderful experience.
yeah.
So Mr. Rittenhouse loved history, and he loved Williamsburg, and he built that place to mimic how Williamsburg is with the pine trees and the running
okay.
stream on the side, and like
Mhm.
he really wanted to have that effect because that was Williamsburg. He went to William and Mary. Like it
Okay.
was very big for him,
Yeah.
and so he was trying to recreate that, and that's why it looks like that.
I had
And-
no idea.
Yep. Yeah, man. Dude, I watched that man work out there every day. And like, he was just, because he loved it. And you can tell that he loved it.
Oh, we did some turns out there helping rake those pine
Oh,
needles
yeah.
so Nick could go out
Yeah.
to help him
Mhm.
get finished so
Yeah.
we can go and do whatever
Yes.
we're going to do.
Yes, we would. So we could all go out and do something, but we would help him because we loved doing it too. And because he taught us in 6th grade,
I'm
English.
not going to lie to you. I helped because I wanted to help Nick get out faster.
Yeah.
I do not love raking pine needles. I did it at my own house a couple weeks ago, and I'm like, why don't I have my teenagers out here doing this?
Yeah, see, I love doing that. I love doing yard work. And I could be out there all day long just
Mm-hmm.
raking pine needles.
So
dude,
the
just having a
new
blast.
owner have they sort of preserved the inside, or what does it look like? I haven't.
I don't really know.
Okay.
Haven't been since changed ownership, but I'm glad that somebody bought it and has kept it going.
Yeah.
When you walked in, he always had a fire going. Always.
Mhm.
Hot and cold, he always had a fire going. And so you would walk in, and he had a really cool area where the guys checked in. But it was awesome because the rooms we stayed in, they were motel rooms.
That's sweet.
And it was like we got to stay. Like Nick had a bedroom, but he converted a motel room into a bedroom for Nick, so Nick could have a good quality of life.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it was some stuff like that was that it showed in his teaching too, and he was very compassionate. Like he would do Mr. Rittenhouse the charge of the Lightning Brigade,
What did he teach? History?
English.
English?
Sixth grade.
Sixth grade English?
Yeah.
Well, 6th grade, like back then, 6th grade was still elementary school.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Right,
gotcha.
right. So a little bit of everything.
General education. Yeah.
Yeah. And so he was one of those teachers that really like motivated me, and with poetry like that. And I had a professor in college. His name was Colonel Skeens, and he was a full bird colonel in the Army, but he lived in Rome for a long time, like decades, and studied over there and completed college over there. And so when he taught as you were there. I mean, like talking about like he would, as walking up to the Coliseum, like you felt the grandness of the Coliseum, and that's how he taught. And so it's like people like him motivated me even more to want to be a teacher because of traveling around the world and seeing the things that I've seen, and I can like tell people about that. Like, like the world's a cool place, and it truly, like, everybody loves everybody when you go around the world.
Mm-hmm.
So what you see on TV is bogus. Everything about it is completely bogus because people genuinely love people and they want people to to succeed in life, and families are really a lot closer overseas than in everywhere. Like the families still today are like families we had that were really close growing up, and I'm not talking about. I'm talking extended families too, like our aunts and uncles. Like we were really close with all of them because they're the ones who were, big time mentors for us too, and helped us along because they saw things that other people didn't see too. So you got you were peppered with, aunts and uncles and grandmas and granddads and and their experiences too.
And like some things that maybe conversations that you don't want to have with your parents directly, right? You can have with other,
right,
relatives, mentors, and
those caring people in your life.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah, because dude, kids need that. Oh my gosh, teenagers need that because some of the things they think, dude, you're not weird. You don't need to be put on some medicine. Somebody else has those thoughts. Just because your mom and dad may not act or do that way, you have family members who do that. Use them, lean on them, learn from them, because these kids need that too. Don't shelter yourselves from them because it'll drive them and motivate them because they know they're not alone in the world. They don't need to be put on, whatever. Because the reason why they're having thoughts of suicide is because people are telling them they're stupid and they're really not. They just think a different way. They were born in a different time. They have other things going on.
Or people might not even be telling them that, but they might feel that way because of something they saw in socials or something they heard or something that was on TV, and they just they haven't figured out how to process.
Exactly. And so, and our parents, they never saw it. We started to see it, but it was kind of like that weird generation of, because we were raised by baby boomers. And and the pre-war generation is who raised us. Whereas this group now, these new technologies coming in, they were raised with more liberal society in ways, and so new technologies, and people weren't studying these technologies and really trying to understand like what could happen to them because it's being touted as the next best thing in technology, and you need to go that way. And so everybody jumps on board, but we're learning as we're going, and smartphones are horrible for kids. It's like that you shouldn't be drinking at a young age. You shouldn't be doing dope at a young age because you're developing, your brain's developing. Yeah. And they're getting these technologies, and nobody knows what it's going to do to them.
Well, in some ways, and we're guilty as, the parents of this generation and the folks that are a little older than us, is like we've sort of abdicated some of our responsibility to these phones and platforms that we've just kind of allowed to help raise kids. And we just gotta do right by our children.
There's things out there that not even I should see, and I've seen some pretty weird stuff, and like things that really shook me to my core that I've seen, and they have access to that, and it's like, you can handle that, but not at that young age, man. It's like seeing somebody killed, seeing somebody shot. Like we're so sensitized to that now. Like we never saw that stuff growing up. You heard about it. You saw it in movies, but you didn't see it happening in real time on social media because people are doing that because they're trying to capture how truly bad things are in areas. But I'm telling you, like, if you take that down, there's a lot of those things that motivate these kids. Like I want to be that, good and bad. They're like, I want to be that. And so
I think subconsciously, yeah.
Right. Yeah. And things happen, and it's like
clicks, right?
And their parents didn't know how to truly handle it because they didn't have this technology, didn't have, they're learning with them as to how we can interact with all this stuff.
Yeah.
But
engage with kids, put them in programs, again, I talked about, the YESO Art Center, the Parks and Rec departments, the Little Leagues, Shore Little League, Randy Custis Memorial Park with Shore Soccer, with the, Central Accomack Little League, Northern Accomack. Like we've got options for children.
And we
have things happening.
Like the Aerospace Academy and all these initiatives and stuff, and these new things that are trying to catch up with these new technologies. Like we need to get on top of it because it's coming. It's coming whether we want it to or not. Like these new
But
technologies.
I do want to say this though, and sorry for the interruption.
No.
Like with all those things that I just said, go into this with the idea that kids are going to have fun. They're going to learn.
Yes.
They're going to learn to make friends. They're going to meet people. Don't go into this with like, oh, this kid's we've got to get a scholarship. We've got to do. That's
unrealistic expectations.
right.
Because I think that is we mentioned that earlier with travel ball and these very high expectations that I'm only going to play one sport because that's my one sport and because I want to get a scholarship and go play, right?
Yeah, and like kids need to understand that you want to see them do well because you want to see them do well. There's no expectation outside of you. Just want them to have fun and grow and learn.
Well, I mean, I think it is. I was actually talking to my students today in physics. Maybe talk to Liam about it. The prompt, I do a prompt every physics. It can range from things in culture, things related to physics, right? But today was, what's your take on AI, and do you think robots will take over the world?
I just did a huge project on this. I love
really?
AI. Yeah, but go ahead.
And it was just like it was interesting because I do think with the introduction of these artificial intelligences, kids are sort of rethinking what is important in life, right?
Mm-hmm.
What sorts of jobs are necessary, right? And maybe like the travel ball and the external pressure is one of those solutions. Maybe I still haven't figured that out, but I think there is a shift in what jobs are
yeah, absolutely.
our people are hiring. But what's your
No, a work thing. I did a project a couple of weeks ago in Chicago. And it was the Y in AI, and we
cool.
came up with we're using it for figuring out how AI can work better with our learning and development platform, and how you use AI to enhance your work product and not replace people.
Yeah. I mean,
dude, I love AI. Like seriously, like I was, not really all for it at first, but just the other day I'm using AI, and
I use it every day. Yeah.
And
every day.
Every day.
I'm doing things now like based on kind of how I see trends in the world and all these tariffs and stuff coming out and all these things that are political that is going to halt global trade. And so we really need to start thinking about regionalizing again, which I'm seeing that, and it's happening organically, like Salt and Arrow Farms and different things. Like things are coming back here that'll help this region sustain, because I think they're thinking the same thing, or maybe not, but they're being led to do that. But so I'm seeing things happening on the Eastern Shore that I'm like, you know what, we really have an opportunity now to kind of help this region, like the Delmarva Peninsula, so to speak, because trade's going to stop, things are going to halt, so they're going to need USA made goods. And so I use AI. I jump on there. I'm like, okay, give me the top 7 things that, industry wise, that we could do here on the Eastern Shore, and what would be the most profitable.
Yeah.
Using today's global model, right, being taken away. And also going off of Trump's tariffs. And so it comes out with the top 7 of things that we could make here on the Eastern Shore, which it blew my mind.
Yeah, some good stuff.
You could make hammers. Hammers come from overseas. Nobody makes hammers in the USA anymore. Do you know how many hammers that I have? And how cheap it is to make a hammer? AI gave me all of this, dude. Like I knew, T-shirts. Remember the old T-shirt factory in Exmoor?
Yep.
There's a T-shirt factory there. They used to make T-shirts. That's coming back, dude. And we can source, people grow cotton here. And it's not that much to get a T-shirt factory started. And I'm talking like paying employees $20 an hour. You can hire 4 employees, even with using today's technologies, pay them $20 an hour, and you're making like $2 or $3 profit on each T-shirt. It's crazy. And it's like a low startup cost right now. completely low.
I do like where you're coming from in like.
I think David's about to ask us if we got any money to invest.
Right.
No.
I'm just playing with you.
No. I'm throwing these ideas out here to people because I want people to do this.
I mean,
Yeah.
my thing
I don't
is,
have time for that right now.
Yeah, my thing has always been we aqua farm, biggest aqua farm for clams in the nation.
Yeah. Dude, seafood
Oysters,
industry. Oh my gosh.
we're
Second.
ranked, in the Mid Atlantic, might be number one.
We are number one in the Atlantic.
Right.
Yeah.
And my biggest thing is like we have a lot of freshwater farming, fish farming, but there aren't any mariculture farms. So my thing is like trying to get and we actually, speaking of MGA, just passed a bill in the youth model, right? About trying to get the offshore wind farm grid that they have 27 miles offshore, trying to reduce the permits so that fish farmers can use that grid to build a little mini ecosystem out there, which is really cool. But it sounds like we're trying to build more of a community with the direction that we're going. I just worry about folks in cities and folks that don't have, like we're very fortunate that we have all of these agricultural farms around us. We have seafood products around us, right? And we can easily make that change. But other folks, I think it might be tough.
Well, and that's kind of almost a little bit of a reversal, right? Because back in the 20s, 30s, and 40s, this was a very wealthy area because of those things. And it seems like maybe it might be again at some point.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point.
Dude, and I see it because from a new technology standpoint and knowing I'm in meetings every single day and they're talking about commercial companies more and more want to come in. We just signed a big agreement up there with Australia, the Australian Space Agency, and to do partnerships here and of new technologies. I'm working with a company that has a new propulsion system. There's new things that are happening that have never been done before. And the stuff, again, is happening up there. And this whole area, if we do it right and we put our arms around it and we truly love what we're doing because we want this area to succeed, like it can happen. We can make this place like really ultra cool and help out this region now. It's not just us.
Yeah.
We can help this region out, the whole Delmarva Peninsula, Hampton Roads area. Like we really truly can be. Wallops is only 4 space launch spaceports in the United States, one of 4.
Yeah.
Space is getting ready to blow up commercial wise. Like we're going to be launching every single day from Wallops. They're going to get to that point and we're launching things to the moon and satellites and building constellations and putting things into deep orbit now where we can communicate back and forth from here to Mars. We're doing that from here. And people are going to start coming here because of that. So if we welcome them with our, arms wide open and say, man, yes, let's partner. Let's do this. Don't be afraid of change.
Mm-hmm.
Embrace this because they're really going to help propel the shore to like some really cool heights. So yeah. And it's this generation, our generation, it's being led by that now.
Yep.
I mean, that's why like us Gen Xers are actually like stepping up and saying, let's do it. We're helping now because we love you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. That's great.
I think it's more because we want to get taken care of on our old age.
Oh, dude, I know.
We need to get our act straight before
Social Security is going to be gone. So we need help. Please, just love us. That's all we need. I tell my wife that I just want you to wheel me out on my deck every day and let me drool and let me just look out in the creek. That's it. I just want that. And I'll be happy. Oh,
man. Too funny.
Yeah.
Too funny.
I love you, dude.
Yeah, man. I love you too.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, this is great.
Yeah.
I feel like we had a great perspective about, what it's like growing up on the Eastern Shore, a little bit of history, like talking about what makes the Eastern Shore special in its own unique way. We got a great insight on some of the programs you offer and, how we're trying to bring back that same sort of feel, to the community. So I love this. This was great.
I think it's right to come back. And Diane Davis,
Yes.
one of the best teachers we ever had. I just want to make sure I give her flowers. too, 'cause
Yeah.
she's still out there doing it, man. She stays on me about making sure that we're serving the kids in the community, and
Yeah.
she's volunteering on every board and whatnot. But I just want to make sure I give her a little plug.
There you go.
That's awesome stuff, dude. That's awesome. Thank you. And Nick's moving here, so maybe
Three amigos.
when he builds his house, we got to get Nick on here too.
Oh yeah,
That'd be fun.
The Texican.
yeah.
Yep.
Nikki
Thanks,
D.
dude.
Yep. All right. Thanks, man.